Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Sound Part 3. And in this presentation, we're going to take a look at how do instruments make sound. And this one is going to be geared more directly towards our sound project unit and making our recycled instruments at home. This one will probably go a little longer than our standard 10-minute lectures. However, the trade-off here, I'm not going to have you take notes. But you might want to take some notes, because I'm going to give you lots of good little nuggets on what makes an instrument, what makes a string, what makes a wind. There are some very subtle things that you can add to your recycled instruments that will greatly improve the quality and the sound that you produce. So, who knows, maybe you might write a thing or seven down just anyways. Surprise me. We already know that sound is a vibration. And we have learned what sound looks like and how sound changes amplitudes and pitch. So, how do instruments make a sound? How do they change their pitch, amplitude, and, all the sounds that they create? There are four basic families here in our instrument world. We have winds, brass, strings, and, of course, my personal favorite, the percussion. Although they all look and sound different, they all do have one thing in common. They vibrate. But where they're different is how they vibrate and how the instrument resonates the sound. Ooh, what a great word. When an instrument resonates a sound, the material it's made from vibrates in a sympathetic tone, a tone that complements what is vibrating, thus producing a particular tone or a pitch. Different materials will resonate in different ways, such as brass and steel. Although they're both metals, they sound very different when they vibrate. The same is true for organic materials as well. Organic means that it has grown, wood. Wood is a very popular material to make instruments out of, and you guessed it, different types of wood will resonate in different ways, thus making different sounds. So if I were to make two guitars exactly the same, but one made out of mahogany and the other a cherry, they would have subtle differences in the way that they sound, based on the types of woods that they are. So what is making the vibration within the instrument itself? Well, each instrument family works in a different way. Let's look at the percussion family first, shall we? It's the best. When we hit the top of a drum, we make the drum head vibrate, and it creates a sound. This model shows us how the drum head vibrates after you strike it. Down here in the middle, it looks like a spider web, and down in the middle, it goes further, but out at the edge, it travels less. The head moves up and down, and it creates a deep sound. The sound resonates along the wood barrel, and it comes out the bottom, thus creating the boom-boom sound that we know and love. Now, some drums can change their pitch by striking the head in different places, but they are limited to what sounds that they can produce. Now, as the fates would have it, we have a drum. Yay us. This is a synthetic drum. You can find them in most of your music rooms, and it is made entirely out of plastic, including the drum head. But when I hit it, it does its job. It vibrates. This long barrel is the resonance chamber, and this is what helps to amplify the sound and make it louder. It allows it to spread out here and then squishes it as it comes out the end, and that is what gives it its unique tone. Now, what's important to note with this particular type of hand drum, when I strike here in the middle, it makes a lower sound. This is called the doom. And when I hit out here on the edge, it makes a higher sound called the beck. Doom, beck. And that is where this particular instrument gets its name from. As you can see, you can create all kinds of different sounds based on the way that you strike it. The harder you hit it, the louder it gets. The softer you hit it, the quieter it gets, right? Yeah. Strings. Everybody loves the strings. Hitting a drum with a stick makes a great sound. However, hitting a string instrument will not give you the same result, unless, of course, you're a member of The Who. Striking or hitting is only one way to create a sound. The string family uses a method of rubbing or plucking to produce its beautiful sounds. Violins and cellos are just two instruments that are played by rubbing a bow over steel strings. A guitar is not played with a bow, unless, of course, you're Jimmy Page. Ask Mom and Dad, they'll tell you all about it. Instead, we use a pick to pluck or strum the strings. Now, once the string is vibrating, the sound resonates in the wooden base around it. The sound bounces around inside and comes out of the hole in the center of the instrument. Now, this is called the resonance chamber. Note these two little pieces of wood right here at the ends of the instrument. These are known as the bridges. It is the job of the bridge to keep the string off of the guitar. This allows the string to vibrate without rubbing on the instrument. Without the bridge, the string would vibrate for only an instant before friction would stop the vibration. The string instrument can change their pitch to most any note that you want to play simply by pushing down on the string or strings in any combination on the neck of the instrument. When you push down on the strings, you shorten its length, thus making the strings vibrate at a faster rate. The faster the string vibrates, the higher the pitch. The slower it vibrates, the lower the pitch. So in other words, when you push down on the string, you shorten its length so it vibrates faster, thus making the sound in a higher pitch. And again, as the fates would have it, I have with me a guitar. And I want to show you really quickly that this is the bridge at the bottom end, and up here at the top end, the other bridge right here. And if I turn it sideways and glide along at the right angle, there we go, you can see how it just keeps the strings just off of the fretboard as you go all the way down the length of the guitar. The fretboard itself is where you change the notes, and by pushing down on the string on the fretboard itself, on the little frets, it acts as a mini bridge, and it still keeps the string off of the rest of the neck versus pushing down here in between the frets, which kind of deadens the vibration. Oops. But what a wonderful noise. This is the resonance chamber. And with one simple thump, all that sound bouncing around, and those vibrations travel into the strings, which make them vibrate a little bit as well. By simply plucking one of the strings, you can see it vibrating, we create music. By pushing down on the fretboard, we can make the note higher, because, and I get this close enough, it makes the string vibrate at a faster rate. Maybe I should play the guitar more. Winds and brass. Reed instruments like the saxophone and the clarinet use a reed to create vibration. The reed vibrates when the musician blows through it, and these two little pieces of wood here kind of flap back and forth and create a sound. Now, here's the fun part. You can make your own reed instrument, believe it or not, with a simple soda straw. What you do is you kind of bite on it and chew on it, and you want to flatten out that end thusly. And once you have it flattened out, you kind of use your scissors and you trim off the corners so that it kind of makes that kind of an appearance. So you have this from the side view and this from the front. And by blowing on it, it makes a buzzy noise. Buzzy noises are great. Now, I made another one here, and you can see I used a thumbtack, and I very carefully, asked by my net's permission to use sharp pointy objects, very carefully poked a couple of 3 holes into the straw. So when I cover them up, it changes the pitch of the instrument. Kind of cool, right? Now, there is another way that you can change the pitch of the instrument, and it's this way. Mom and Dad, I apologize in advance for showing you this. Reeds. They're fun. So when you hit the percussion instrument, you pluck and strum or bow a string instrument, and you blow through a reed to play the saxophone. So how does a flute actually make its noise? Well, flutes actually use the air itself to vibrate. When the musician blows into the bore of the flute, it causes the air to compress and vibrate as it alternates going in and out of the flute. Now, this is the guy's lips. This is a cutaway view of the flute. And by blowing the air over the opening, it creates this whole rushing in and out in air pressure and squeezing and stuff. And this is what actually creates the sounds here. The wind instruments change their pitch by covering the holes in the pipe, as I showed you on my reed instrument here a minute ago. When the holes are covered, it shortens the length of the pipe that the vibration can resonate in. And the shorter the length of the pipe, the higher the pitch. The longer the length of the pipe, the lower the pitch. I don't know why that does that. We're going to skip over that, and we're going to get right into I've lost my flute. Flute! This is a recorder. It's not really a flute, but again, it is the same basic principles. It has a series of holes that go down the neck, and it has a little fluted end, and when you blow into it, it makes a noise. And I'm going to cover up the holes. As you can see, I don't play the flute either. I'm not a very good musician, I'm afraid. Brass instruments. No reeds to blow, no strings to pluck, no skins to hit, nothing but brass. Musicians just don't blow into a trumpet, they buzz. A buzz of the lips, that is, and when the musician buzzes his lips into the mouthpiece, it creates the vibration that resonates throughout the instrument. The brass instruments change their pitch much the same way that the wind instruments do. They change the distance the vibration travels before it leaves the end. Most brass instruments have a system of valves that shorten or increase the path of the sound on its way out. So you can see that when this goes down here, these holes will line up with the different paths. So when the button is up, it creates a very short length. However, when you push the button down, it brings it through this secondary tube, which then increases the length that the sound will travel through the instrument. Kind of cool, right? Again, the shorter the distance, the higher the pitch, the longer, the lower. That's the valve opening here, and these are the valves and the little extension pieces here that'll come off the sides. A trombone uses a slide that increases and shortens the distance with the tubes. So this whole thing right here will stretch in and out as he plays the trombone. You will be very pleased to know that I don't have any brass instruments. However, we can still buzz. Everybody, you can make your own little mouthpiece right here by just taking your fingers and going. There's a muscle right here at the top of your lip. It is called an embouchure. And it is that muscle that strengthens when you play a brass instrument and makes you buzz better. You can practice and drive your parents crazy at home. Hey, that's all the time I have. That's all we got. Thank you all very much for taking a look at what makes an instrument an instrument. Feel free to watch this again a few times and play around with some of the techniques. And when you bring your instrument in on the due date, the project due date, we are going to be looking for these little subtleties, perhaps in your string instruments, in your woodwinds, in your brass, in your drums. Who knows? Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good night.